School bells will soon ring at different times across Queensland. The state government introducing new guidelines allowing more flexible classroom hours. For some, this could mean a 4-day school week for students. Parenting expert Di Wilcox is here to weigh in on this one. Good to have you with us, Di.
Hello, Mon.
What's your take on a 4-day school week?
Look, I would need more information and detail to form a personal opinion, but from what I've heard, some of the positives may include improved mental health and wellbeing for students and teachers. You've also got the opportunity for kids to pursue extracurricular activities and reduce costs for schools. Some of the negatives, however, include longer school days, working parents need to find childcare, and that reduced contact time will really affect some kids that need it.
You've weighed up the pros and the cons. How could you see it working here if introduced in the West?
I'm not convinced it would work for every school. However, if it did, the schools would select the 4 days that they're open for, and the average school day would go from 6 hours to 8 hours, and there would still be legislation in place that tells teachers how much to teach and what curriculum to teach.
Di, school is also a safe space for some kids. Could this cause a whole new set of problems?
Absolutely. For those children that face domestic violence, abuse and neglect, school is their safe space. And for some of these children, they even get fed at school. So not going to their safe space one day less a week is going to be really hard for them.
As you'd expect with such a radical proposal, we'll have quite a few viewer comments.
Sure.
Travis J. Edwards asks, what are working parents meant to do? Take every Friday off?
This is going to be tough for working parents because not only do they have to find childcare, they have to find a way to pay for it as well.
And what about the kids? What do they do with that day off?
So this is going to depend on circumstances. Some kids will be fortunate enough to go to extracurricular activities. Some will be able to stay at home with a parent. But many may be unsupervised and able to just wander the streets.
Particularly the students in senior years.
Absolutely.
Michael Carlucci asks, what are the kids doing on, well, that's the 5th day. Beck Jane writes, I can't imagine how difficult it would be for a teacher and a student to fit the workload in across 4 days rather than 5. Teachers are at breaking point. Could this be something that works for them but not the students? I'm
pretty sure given the teachers' workload, that's not going to change too much. They are still going to be working incredibly hard, even if it's an additional administrative day. So I think we need to keep in mind that regardless, teachers are going to still be working.
Flick Hannigan says, as a stay-at-home mum with 3 littlies in school, they're exhausted by day 4 and I think they'd absolutely benefit from having shorter weeks. Is too much being expected of our kids at school?
I think there is a lot of expectation on our students and you know what, I think it's going to be a very personal thing. For some children it will work and for some it won't, and the same for families. For some this will be great and for others not so. So that's why it's such a debatable topic.
Bradley Onley has this alternative. All school holidays should be halved. Far too much time away from school in WA. It's not like WA kids are excelling at the moment with grades.
Well, yes, it's true that they're not excelling. I think halving school holidays would be extremely debatable by many families as well. I know personally as a mum, I love the school holidays being with my kids, but then I've got friends that really struggle. So again, very personal situation. And
you also earlier mentioned longer school days as an alternative as well.
So longer school days, and for the little ones, that would be really tough because they are going to be extremely tired by the end of the day. So going from 6 to 8 hours, that's a really long day for our little ones, so we do need to consider that.
Because either way, you do have to get the contact hours in somehow.
Yes, you do.
Leanne and Kev Downey write, we now have to be teachers 1 day a week too? Some parents would fear that this is what's expected of them.
It's really interesting because I've had parents who've spoken to me about teaching their, homeschool learning, and some people are under the impression that's really easy, and it's far from it. So that 1 day would be quite scary for some parents.
Di, you've given us your understanding of what's being proposed over in Queensland. What was your reaction when you first heard it?
I was quite surprised, although I know it has been trialled in the US and other parts of the world, and there's been mixed results. So for some schools it's been really beneficial, for others it hasn't. So that's why it's so debatable as to who will use it and who won't. And I think it's going to come down to the independent schools and what they believe is best for their school community.
How closely do you think other states will be watching this?
Very closely, because I think we'll all be talking about the pros and cons, and of course if it's going to reduce workload in any way for teachers and that mental stress, people want it. We need to care about our children and our teachers' mental health, but we need to be very careful about what the cons are going to be.
Di Wilcox, appreciate you weighing in on this for us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.